In episode 4, when Benedict and Sophie arrive back in town, Sophie starts questioning where exactly she's going to work, and Benedict is really coy with it because he wasn't able to actually find her a gig. So he figured, you'll just work at my house. But this is completely unacceptable to Sophie. She doesn't want to work for Benedict. She doesn't want to work for the family. She starts storming off, but Benedict explains, look, I don't know what happened at your former employer, but nobody wants to hire you. Like, I asked, and I have connections, but somebody has besmirched your name. So, look, I'm not even really going to be here that much. We're not going to run into each other. Why exactly are you fighting this so bad? And eventually, she does give in. She accepts the job, or at least she thinks, because when they go in the house, Benedict sees his mom and says, oh, did you get my letter about hiring Sophie? And she says, yeah, but you left before you got mine. This girl's not trustworthy. And that's when Benedict shows his mother the injury that Sophie healed back up. He explains, she saved my life. We need to find a position for her. And as soon as Violet hears that Sophie saved his life, her mood completely changes. She says, no, yeah, we do. We need to find a job for her. We'll figure something out. And they do find something for Sophie to do. It's going to be on a temporary basis, but basically she's going to be taking care of Eloise and Hyacinth. Now that Benedict is back home, though, and he had that tiny fling with Sophie, he wants to try to find his mystery girl again. He tells his mother about this, and she's excited because she wants him to marry. So he wants his mom to put the word out there that he is, again, looking for her, giving the description and all that. His mom then lets him know that Sophie has really acclimated nicely into the household. She's basically beloved in a short period of time because she goes above and beyond. And Benedict says, great, there's the other maid that I told you about. She's more than capable as well, and that is Sophie's friend from the house in the countryside that was getting accosted. So Lady Bridgerton is going to bring her in as well. A few days later, Hazel shows up, and for Sophie, she's thrilled. She has a friendly face. Not that the other staff members haven't been friendly to Sophie. They've been great. But then Sophie wins over the hardest member of the household, Eloise. She does this while Eloise and Hyacinth are having a conversation about art or, I don't know, something like that. And Sophie jumps in, showing that she knows about artists and scientists and all of that. And it's super impressive to Eloise. They start comparing books they've read. And because of the fact that Sophie is so well versed in just literature, she wins Eloise over. This is obviously a big relief to Lady Bridgerton, but she needs another kind of relief, a relief that only Marcus can give her, a relief in her loins. She calls the head of the staff and lets her know that she wishes to have a tea party, late at night, alone. Children need to be out of the house. So they start scheming for this. And the easiest way to do this is to have Francesca and John host a party where the day of, Violet will say, oh, I don't feel well. Marcus comes over and they do the damn thing. So now it's on Violet to really hammer home that Francesca needs to host the family in order to get that alone time. Now, right down the hall, Benedict finally does end up running into Sophie. They haven't really run into each other too much. They've kind of been avoiding one another, but now they're face to face. And he asks her, hey, are you still mad at me for dragging you here? And she admits, no, I'm not. Everyone's been great. The family's been great. I actually really like it. And thank you so much for hiring Hazel. The whole time, though, Benedict is fidgeting with a button that he can't quite get. Sophie asks him if he's getting ready to go to the party at Lady Danbury's that night, but he says, no, it's only for the ladies. And the way he says it, she questions whether or not he likes Lady Danbury, and he says, no, I do, but, you brought up feeling comfortable in society, and he doesn't come right out and say the fact that he's not comfortable with these things, but you can read between the lines. She then helps him with that button. They get real close. They don't kiss, but boy, there's some sexual tension going on. No, instead that night, he goes to a social club for guys. He's hanging out with everybody. They're all talking about different people taking mistresses because one of the people that Benedict knows fell in love with his mistress. So it's got Benedict thinking that maybe you marry out of society. Down the street, though, at Danbury's, there's just a lot of gossip going around about the latest Whistledown pamphlet, which is funny because Penelope is there. Most of the conversation is regarding Benedict and this search for this mystery woman, which Alice Mondridge says, I'll get on the case. And then the party wraps up. The next day, though, Lady Bridgerton decides to call Sophie to have tea with her. She's been meaning to thank her for saving Benedict's life. but she also wants to offer her a full-time position. She tells Sophie, you won over the hardest Bridgerton to win over. And Sophie really hopes that she's talking about Benedict. She gets a little disappointed when Lady Bridgerton says, Eloise. But the point is that Sophie has really acclimated nicely to the household. Everybody loves her. They want her to stay on. And she says, yeah, I'll consider it. After the cake and tea session with Sophie, Lady Bridgerton goes and meets with Lady Danbury. She starts telling Danbury how there's something about Sophie. She just wants to protect her. All this bad juju in the streets about how bad she was, it's not the case. But Lady Danbury also has an issue. She asks Violet, hey, I want to do something for Alice Mondrich, but reality is it would be good for me. Should I do that? And Violet tells her, I've had this same problem. Like, do I do something, but I actually really want it too, and it would be benefiting me? And what she's talking about is Marcus, the struggle of moving on from her husband, or at least that's the perception. But what Violet tells Lady Danbury is, yeah, do it. Because what Lady Danbury wants to do is have Alice Mondrich be the new Lady Danbury. And she knows that Alice doesn't want to do that, but it would be best for her. For society, for the Queen, for everybody. Alice would fight it, but eventually she would see the light. So she's going to have to find the right time to do it. That night, though, there is another run-in between Sophie and Benedict. Sophie was staring at the stars. Benedict walked by. He told her, I'll leave, but she said, no, I'm just looking at the stars. Again, there's a lot of sexual tension. Sophie goes to excuse herself. Benedict stops her, and he tells her, I don't want you to go. And that's when she brings up the fact that she was offered a permanent position. And her whole life, she's wanted to be a part of a family like this. But she says, I don't know if it's wise for me to stay. And the whole time, Benedict is getting closer and closer to her lips. He tells her, if you want to stay, I don't want to jeopardize that for you. And then they go their separate ways. That night, though, all the sexual tension finally builds up and Sophie can't take it anymore. Damn it, she's going to reach her pinnacle. At least you thought so at one point. I mean, she starts going to town down there, but then she just stops. I mean, it's a buzzkill. The next day, though, word comes down from Alice Mondrich that she might have found Benedict's mystery woman. She sends word to Lady Bridgerton on who this girl might be. It's one of her neighbors. But she also gets dragged in front of the Queen by Lady Danbury. Because this, unknowingly of course, is Alice's chance to show what she could be as the lady-in-waiting. She tells the Queen what she knows, and the Queen gives her blessing. Yeah, all right, she could be my new lady-in-waiting. And when she says that, Alice's face changes because this isn't what she wanted. She can't show that openly to the Queen, but she leaves and she's pissed. And it gets to the point where Lady Danbury has to go over to the Mondrich household where Alice's husband is like, I don't know what the hell's going on. But Danbury has to talk some sense into Alice, saying, this is how you become friends with the Queen. Look, you're the only one who can do this. You're the only one who could replace me, who can tell her when she's wrong. So you need to take the job. And this little pep talk does seem to work. It seems like Alice's mind has switched. But unfortunately, Alice's tip, it isn't it. Now, the girl that Alice thought was Benedict's mystery woman comes over. She has tea along with her mother, Benedict, and Violet. But the more that Benedict talks to her, the more he realizes, yeah, it's not her. And the clincher is when she says she wasn't even at the ball that night. But what really throws Benedict off is when Sophie walks in. Because Sophie is not supposed to be doing that particular position. And he feels uncomfortable having Sophie watch him with other girls. He doesn't quite know what to do. He covers his teacup so that she can't pour any tea into it. She accidentally does, all over his hand. It burns him. There's a whole scene. But when they're alone, he apologizes. He tries to help her clean it up, and she's clearly upset about it. She tells him it's not a problem. You're an eligible bachelor. This is what you're supposed to do. I'm a maid. I'm supposed to clean up, right? And he says, well, you shouldn't have to witness it. But she shoots back, it is not helpful when you say things like that. This conversation gets really emotional between the two. At one point, Benedict says, I'm not interested in that woman. She could never compare. With Sophie shooting back, compare to what? I mean, why are you always here? Everywhere I turn, here you are. This is the best position I've ever had, but I can't stay here if you're living here. He offers up that maybe he could spend time somewhere else for the time being if she would be more comfortable, and she says, yeah, that'd be great. As Sophie is leaving, she turns back and says, you really should pursue something with that woman, Miss Hollis, she seems delightful. A few hours later, she watches as Benedict packs up his stuff and heads off to basically a bachelor pad. That night, though, most of the staff is off because it's supposed to be Violet's night with Marcus, which also means that it's Francesca's night and John's night to host the family. Before they do that, they start fooling around, and Francesca puts on an acting job to show John that he's doing it right, but John knows, yeah, that's you're faking it. And they have a whole conversation about sex. I don't know. I don't really know what's accomplished with it other than the fact that John knows that she's never orgasmed. A little while later, though, the family comes over, brothers and sisters. Hyacinth starts excitedly saying that she can't wait to host one of these parties, and Eloise, who has been getting dragged to her lessons, finally says, I can't take this anymore. Could you please stop talking about that stuff? And Hyacinth has had enough. She looks at Eloise and says, I used to think you just hated me, but now I'm starting to think you're just in love with yourself. The party, though, then gets word that they're having another guest, an unexpected one. John and Francesca go out to see who it is, and it's John's cousin, Michaela. Michaela has shown up, and while John's excited, it doesn't seem like Francesca's excited at all. Seems like something must have happened back in Scotland. Meanwhile, down the street at the Bridgerton household, Marcus shows up, and then he lays the wood, shows her that lap hog, and she wanted it. It was consensual, it was hot, it was steamy, it was spicy. Although you have to remember, Bridgerton household is massive. So the staff that leave for the night, that includes Sophie, they have no idea what's going on in one bedroom. They just leave. But Sophie realizes, oh crap, I forgot my coin purse. I got to go back in. She doesn't know that Benedict has come back to the house to talk to her. And they run into each other. It doesn't take long for lips to be locked. They start making out. It gets real heavy. Fingers start traveling. But Benedict then ruins it all. Because he tells Sophie, I want you to be my mistress. And that's something that Sophie's clearly not interested in at all. So she leaves Benedict dumbfounded and confused. And that is the end of part 1, season 4 of Bridgerton. Thank you so much for getting this part of the recap. I really appreciate it. Consider subscribing to the channel. Hit thumbs up if you like this video. Smash that thumbs down button if you thought it was terrible. Let me know in the comment section what you thought about part 1 and what your expectations are for part 2. Oh, and there's merch. You can buy like a mug or something or become a channel member. That'd be cool too. But I'll be back here for part 2 when that drops in February. Thanks.